Hello, I'm Jasmine Davis here with Miss Beverly Jenkins, and I'm with YourTigersWar.com. Hello, Miss Jenkins.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say congratulations on your NAACP Image Award nomination.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was interesting because I didn't believe it was me. People sometimes get Brenda Jackson and I mixed up, and I had been, and this was for 2013.
Yes.
I had been on Deadline, so it was underground, and I come up and there's a bunch of hoopla going on my Facebook page. And the ladies just say, Miss B, you've been nominated for, and I'm like, yeah, right. They got me mixed up with Brenda. And they were like, no. So they started posting all this stuff, and I was like, wow, very, very honored. Kim Roby won that year. She's another great author, so didn't mind coming in second or third or whatever
Right.
to her. But it's quite an honor, quite an honor.
That's good. That
Yeah.
must be an honor. I was just like, that's great. That's great.
It's kind of cool.
I know you won several awards before.
Yeah.
How was it receiving those awards? How was it being acknowledged for your work?
It's great to be honored for your stuff. I've got I don't want to say a room full, but almost a room full of them. But the most important thing for me is connecting with the readers.
Right.
Putting out that history that, we may not know in school. Getting letters from readers who say, Ms. Jenkins, I've never read a whole book before.
Wow.
People who say, well, I'm reading this out loud to my grandmother who's blind or whatever. So for me, the accolades are great, but the personal touch and what the stories do for the readers is the biggest award of all.
So I love the fact that you talk about the Black experience in a different light. Why did you choose, why is that important to you to speak not only about our days of slavery, and why was that important to you?
Because if I had written a history book, wouldn't nobody read it? I mean, think about it. You take classes in history, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it was a great way to teach African American history, but do it in a way that's very connective. I tell people, I say, okay, I have romance novels masquerading as history books. So I give you the history, then I give you a treat. And then I give you more history, and then I give you more treats. And at the end of the book, you're so busy fanning that, and then you realize, well, hell, I've learned an awful lot of African American history, by reading this novel. So it's a unique and fun way to teach it. Yeah.
That's good, that's good. So who is one of your favorite novelists and why?
I read everything. I grew up reading everything. But my favorite, I don't know, and people seem to find this surprising, is that I'm a big fantasy reader. I'm into Jim Butcher and Malona Andrews and Richard Kadrey and not necessarily romance writers. I read mysteries. I read a little bit of everything. But my favorite, is the dragons and the quests, and I've got one of those books in me too, but I haven't had a chance to put it out on paper yet. But I'm a big fantasy reader.
Okay. So what book is your favorite, or would you say is your baby? What's your favorite?
Of the
book
books that
you've
I've written?
Yes, ma'am.
It's kind of like asking your mama which is her favorite child, right?
Right.
So, but if I had to pick, I would say the first book, which is Night Song, which was my very first book, published in '94, would be the first one. Would be my number one book. And then maybe two, excuse me, my first, what they would call romantic suspense, which is Edge of Midnight, which is set in Detroit, and you've got this, secret organization, and, behind the scenes kind of thing. So those two, if I had to pick two, would be Night Song and Edge of Midnight.
So what keeps you humble? All the awards, after all the books, all the fans, and...
Girl, I got 8 aunts. I have 4 sisters, and my fans, they'll call me out. They'll say, Miss B, you know. So I tell people, you know, if I ever get anywhere and I'm acting like I don't have any sense, or not being appreciative of the gifts that I've been given, I tell people just get up, get in the line behind my sisters and my aunts, and you know, you can slap the shit out of me because obviously I haven't lost my damn mind. So that and the fact, I don't know if I'm not supposed to be cussing. Because my daughter said, Mom, make sure you don't cuss. It's so easy. For me, it's a lot easier to be nice than it is to walk around with my head up my ass, I guess.
Right.
But this is it's a humbling experience to be able to visit with you all, to travel the country, to get to speak African American history wherever I go. Spend a day in my pajamas. It's a blessed life, and I would like to think that I'm living that blessing and honoring that blessing, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So I see that you said you've come from a long line of big families. So I see you're one of 6, 7?
I'm one of 7, oldest of 7, yeah, oldest of 7. My mother is 3rd of 7. So I've got something like 21 first cousins. We get together not as often as we used to because a lot of the elders are passing away, but we have a good time. We have a good time. My dad was one of 4. He's only got a sister left now. But yeah, and they all read the books. You know, my mama reads the books. She's 85. And, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years, so she was in her 60s when I first got published, which is where I am now. And she would move books around in the stores. Ma, what you doing? Well, it's on the bottom. Ma, they're alphabetical. I don't care. It should be. So, yeah, lots of support there.
That's good. Gotta love moms for doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Put their child first.
Oh, yeah.
So I read that as a 4th grader, you were the editor of your school paper. How was that?
You know, I was the editor of the Jones School Comet. It's 4th grade, 9 years old, something like that, however old you are when you're in the 4th grade. The teachers wanted to start a newspaper. And so, you know, you always have one student in the school who's like the overachiever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was editor. I don't remember much about it. I do remember the name, and I don't think it lasted I don't think it lasted after I left elementary school, but that was my first dibble and dabble at writing.
Yeah, so young.
Yeah, but I didn't want to be a writer. All I ever wanted to do was work in the library. That's it.
Really?
No intentions of being a writer. Books were my thing. You know, I'd strike out for Mark Twain Library, which is, you know, not in existence anymore on the east side of Detroit, and grab as many books as my skinny little arms could hold and walk them 13 blocks and, you know, read through the week after I get my homework done, and next Saturday walk that 13 blocks again and get, you know, another armful of books. But I read every book in the library.
Wow.
From the elementary little kids books to the teen books to the adult books, and then, you know, you move downtown to the big library in the way in the world you can read your way out of that one. But yeah, reading has always been my thing. So this whole writing career is sort of like the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, so where did you get the inspiration to start writing?
I have always written, you know, poems. I used to write stories when I was little. Going through high school, I was working at Park Davis Pharmaceuticals, which is now been eaten up by Pfizer and all these other people, but I was working at their reference desk. This was in late 80s. And I was working on this romance, writing it for me, because there's no market.
Yeah.
And one of the women, Caucasian woman who worked with me, had just gotten published, and I said, yeah, I'm working on this little story. And so she said, bring it in, let me see it. So she read it, and she said, you need to get this published. I'm like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. So she harassed me and harassed me and harassed me. So just to make her shut the hell up, I found an agent who was a big-time editor in New York back in the early 80s, and she had retired, and she was doing agenting. And she contacted me like 3 days later and said she wanted to represent me. So it took us a while to get it sold, though. I probably got enough rejections to pay for this auditorium. They kept saying, great story, but, great story, but, great story, but. There was no box for it. It was a 19th century story featuring African American people. It was not slavery based. It was not based in the South. So, finally got it sold in '94, and I've been at it ever since.
So would you say that's one of your biggest challenges you faced as a writer?
I think as a first-time writer, it's a challenge everybody faces.
Right.
Just trying to get somebody to place the value on your work that you place on it yourself. It ain't easy. And you have to persevere, and you can't have a thin skin. When I talk to aspiring writers, I tell them, I say, you need a thick skin to be in this business. And if you don't have a thick skin, then maybe you need to take up knitting or something, So you're either in it to win it, or you take up knitting or something.
So when you were receiving all these rejection letters, what did you do to manage your faith in?
Wrote other stuff. I tell people, don't watch the mailbox. If you're going to make this a career, you should have a wealth of stories inside of you. And I got characters backed up like, I don't know, the airport in Atlanta, waiting to, come down. Excuse me. So you keep busy. And if you're going to be just a one-book wonder, you're not going to have much of a career.
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
So you try and keep busy, you try and keep faith, you try and say, okay, you get the rejection letters, and it's like somebody telling you got an ugly child. Your baby's so ugly, so. But you try and keep the faith and keep working and keep reading, because that's the most important thing. In order to be a great writer, you got to be a great reader, and not just the genre that you're writing in. So, I don't know.
So what advice would you give to any aspiring writers?
Keep writing, keep reading, keep putting your stuff out there. Jump on out there on faith. But you gotta have something at your core in order to keep, your head above the depression that can come from being a first-time author trying to get something published. And do your homework. You need to learn as much about the business of writing as you can. I always offer help or brainstorming stuff for first-time writers, and I give them homework. You need to do this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people coming up with, especially with this publishing thing coming up now, they don't know what to do. And so I'll give them go pick up this book or start here. But you need to know as much about the business of writing as possible. So.
Great advice. I just wanted to say thank you again for coming
You're
out.
so welcome.
Thank you for interviewing me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
I'm here with Miss Beverly Jenkins, wrapping up our interview. I'm Jasmine Davis with Tiger's Roar. Thank you.